Hi, this is Terry Healy, bringing you some. Whoop, got a mic on there. Hey, everybody. Um, Welcome. This is Terry Healy, bringing you some extraordinary transformation. We are starting about a minute early today, so hope everybody's tuned in and on the dial, ready to go. We are also broadcasting on Facebook Live, so take a peek at Terry Healy, transformational speaker, if you'd like to chime in. Today's show is brought to you by Ryan Eberhardt with Diamond Residential Mortgage. Don't assume all mortgage companies are the same. They're not. Ryan has a level of commitment to his clients that is unprecedented in the industry. Fantastic human being and wonderful service that he provides to his customers. His office is conveniently located on Route 30 at 350 Northland Drive in Valparaiso, and his direct phone line is area code 219-707-8429. Thank you, Ryan, for supporting community radio, and you are listening to WVLP at 103.1 FM, also live streaming at WVLP.org. Today's conversation is just me in the studio today. I had a guest, and he unfortunately suffered with a broken toe yesterday, so he is rescheduling. We'll find him next week, and it'll be an exciting show for sure. So I decided to bring you a little bit of life coaching today. Topic is reinventing yourself. So a lot of the different work that I do out in the community has to do with bringing workshops to the community in different organizations and groups, and also doing group and one-on-one coaching. So got a little bit of tread and traction and a little bit of experience in the field, and always love to bring that out to people that are interested in just kind of, making a better way of life, creating a better life for themselves and their families. Um, so I kind of want to talk to you about reinventing yourself. And I think everyone has an idea what this is about, but we all have pretty good examples of it that we've been privy to. And I'm going to give you some celebrity examples because those are the easiest ones, I think, for us to identify. Um, some examples of people that have reinvented themselves would be Ronald Reagan, right? Former president, was an actor, good actor, I guess, and a little bit before my time, but ended up being the president of the United States. Sonny Bono, for those of you that remember Sonny and Cher, back in the day, I remember that from being a little girl. And he became the mayor of Palm Springs. Arnold Schwarzenegger, and also an actor, tough guy out there, and he ended up being, I guess, the 38th governor of the state of California. Also was thinking about Shirley Temple. All those of us remember her. Again, a little bit before my time, but I remember the movies of her. What an icon she was. She ended up being a U.S. ambassador and ultimately the chief of protocol for the United States. So those are kind of some examples that we can all kind of go, oh, yeah, that's what reinventing myself is all about. People that, started out walking a certain walk and doing a certain thing, and just completely said, wait a second, I am going to hit a reset button and do something completely different and maybe follow a life's passion, something they dreamed about forever, before they found their way um, into the public eye the way that they did. And I know a lot of people dream of reinventing themselves. A lot of people have that kind of a goal, and maybe a little bit like a daydream or a fantasy about it. And what I do know is that if you think about it, we all know somebody who has gone through that, and have changed their lives in such a way that they end up being unrecognizable, to themselves and to you. A lot of times that comes, like after a major life incident, like a divorce, people that have experienced crisis, financial hardship or crisis or ruin, and sometimes with health issues. We see people come through this process, and I think that especially depending on the severity of what somebody's been walking, kind of helps them really just kind of bottom out, I guess is the way to put it, and decide that they're going to create something from nothing, or experience life in a way that they never have before. So kind of thinking of somebody I know who just had come out of a health crisis, and it was life threatening, and he didn't think he was going to make it. So uh, I think when you walk that walk, a lot of times what will happen is you have um, maybe an appreciation for life that you didn't have before you experienced that. And it makes you really maybe treasure things a little bit more. I mean, pay a little bit more attention, don't take so much for granted. Um, so I was looking at an article yesterday to kind of give us some content for today's show, and I found an article by the Huffington Post, and it was called 50 Over 50. And what they were talking about is that we've had this obsession, with the 30 under 30, these top lists of people that have done wonderful things. And this article that I read had said that that's the wrong focus. And we need to stop maybe focusing so much on achieving so much at such a young age, and that perhaps maybe give some look or second glance to people that have done phenomenal things over the age of 50. So kind of we need to kind of redefine success. Kind of look at maybe not redefine it, but take another look at a definition for it. Some of the people that they noted that I want to share are Elle Macpherson, turned 50, and she launched a new line of lingerie called The Body, which I guess is marketed through JCPenney. And she also created a nutritional drink called the Super Elixir, and she sells that directly through her company. Um, the article noted Steve Martin, which I think we remember him as a great comedian. Saturday Night Live, kind of, I think is where he got launched. But he became a first-time dad at the age of 67 when his wife, Anne Stringfield, gave birth to a baby. Isn't that amazing, right? Now, talk about reinventing yourself. I can't imagine at age 67 he was thinking about diapers and formula and all that good stuff, but there he is, right? Also, they noted former President George W. Bush celebrated his 90th birthday, and in the way that he chose to celebrate was he took a skydive. Now, that's amazing. I've gone skydiving, and I wouldn't seek it out again, but I would do it again. So if somebody came along and said, "Would you like to take a dive?" I would do it. It's something pretty amazing, and it does make you kind of transcend and kind of redefine your feeling about fear. It kind of makes you really look a little differently at that once you take an exercise like that. Article also talked about Betty White. Um, Hello to Angelina, tuning in on Facebook Live. Nice to see you here today. Betty White didn't become a household name until she turned 51. And at the age of 51, she began her role as Sue Ann Nivens on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. So isn't that, and she's just, gosh, what an incredible human being, right? But yeah, what a great example of somebody who's achieving things over 50. The article also talked about Henry Winkler, and he's a grandfather at age 68. He actually moved from being an icon, an actor we know from Happy Days, and started writing children's books. And I didn't know that about him until I got this article. But the book series is about a boy who has dyslexia, which is apparently something that Henry had suffered from and still suffers from himself. So thank you to the Huffington Post for giving us this little bit of a glimpse into things out there. It's nice to see things doing the other, people that are over 50 changing the world, changing themselves. Um, so I have a friend that helped me kind of find the content for today's show. I want to give a shout out to her. As somebody who she and I share a love of music and love of music lyrics. Two quotes, one from REO Speedwagon, and these are just little snippets from songs that make me think of reinventing yourself. REO Speedwagon did the song Roll with the Changes, and their line in that is, "If you're tired of the same old story, turn some pages." Also, another line that I appreciate is from the Eagles, and they did a song called Already Gone. And the lyric is, "So oftentimes it happens that we live our lives in chains, and we never even know we have the key." So a couple things to make you think a little bit today about reinventing yourself. Kind of want to take a look at why do we do that? What causes us to invent ourselves? Well, what I know is that by human nature, we tend to always have a balancing act going of what is uncomfortable and what is comfortable. And more often than not, we can stay in a place of being severely uncomfortable for a long, long time. And something happens, and there is a tipping point where all of a sudden it becomes so unbearably uncomfortable that that is the catalyst to make us evaluate our lives and go start the process of reinventing who we are, and redesigning what we walk around in. It just like we just get that place we just can't stand it anymore. Um, an example of that might be somebody who is a victim of domestic abuse or violence, um, and they finally, hit the wall, pack everything up, get out in the middle of the night and go somewhere where nobody knows their name and create a new life for themselves. Another example of becoming profoundly uncomfortable is if we have a physical challenge, if we've got a lot of extra weight that we're carrying or a condition that we can help correct or heal by taking better care of ourselves. A lot of times that'll do it. Like just gets to, what's that show that we see on reality show called My 600-Pound Life, where people are at the risk. They're gonna have a real short lifespan if they don't address the issue, or again, their life has become so unbearable. Um, another another hit the wall kind of example would be somebody who's suffering with an addiction, or like a drug addiction, or they've got lifestyle choices that are putting them in harm's way. Not getting them where they want to go. That would be a real good example, and you may or may not know somebody who is recovered from an addiction, or they've been incarcerated, and all of a sudden they become unrecognizable, right? They find their way out. They find that path, whatever that is. That's one way. That's one way that we do it, or one reason, I guess, why we do it. Another is that we have a vision or a goal that pulls us forward. It's almost like, if you imagine that you have something that you see, an end game, and final picture of what it is you want to do, and it almost lassos you in, it pulls you in, it pulls you in, and pulls you in, and pulls you toward the things that you need to be seeing or having or experiencing, or pulls you toward the people you need to meet to get that going. That would be another reason for us to take on the conversation of reinventing ourselves. Um, what I want to talk about is that, whichever way that comes for you, that it's either that tipping point where it's just so excruciating that the you can no longer stand the world that you're in, or that you have a vision um, that I'm sorry, I missed it. Sorry, text coming through on my phone. Or that you've got a vision that's pulling you forward. Either way, whatever way you go at it, it's going to be work, right? It's going to be work. So what I know is that, unfortunately for us, is that, we there are movies, there's TV out there, and that makes it all look so easy. Like, so we watch this whole process from start to finish, right? Of somebody having an experience or having a vision, and getting to the end game and getting the goal and ringing that bell, and that's happening in what, about 2 hours, right? So what it does is it sets up like an unrealistic expectation for us, of exactly what is it going to take, to create a new life for yourself. Um, be mindful of that. Just understand that you're going to have to roll up your shirt sleeves and take a deep breath, and kind of get out there and do what you got to do to make it happen, and don't expect it to come fast. Every so often it does, Sometimes it does, but more often, no, it doesn't. So I want to thank everybody who's tuning in. You are listening today to WVOP at FM 103.1 and also live streaming at WVOP.org. Um, for anybody just tuning in, I am doing Life Coach 101 today on the radio, and we are talking about reinventing yourself and kind of going through a little bit of identification, people we know that have done it, and looking at why do we do it, what's the catalyst, what propels us to it. So the big meat of the matter is so you get to a place and you know you want to do this, right? It either doesn't feel very good anymore to be in your skin, or it you're just so compelled by a goal or a vision that you have that you decide you're going to take it on. Want to look at how do we do it, and in the work I do with people, especially the coaching work I do, this is where, um, the rubber meets the road. Is kind of going through what we have to do there, and I've identified 7 critical steps that are crucial, to making this happen. Step number 1 is when you decide that you want to reinvent yourself is designing the outcome. That's what I call that, and kind of think about what you want an end picture or two to look like. How will you know when you hit that goal? What does it look like? What's around you? What do you see? What do you hear? Do you smell anything? I mean, it can be part of your picture too. Most importantly is imagine what that's going to feel like, when you start kind of putting the picture together for yourself. You want to be very, very specific on this step. And just to forewarn you, there are steps coming forward here that you don't want to be specific, that actually can kind of get in your way. Um, so you want to add as many details as you can to the daydream, to the end picture. So for me, for many, many years, I've had a goal and an end picture in mind of where I want to be and what I want that to look like. And I can tell you that when I think about the picture, I can tell you what colors are. I'm actually standing on a stage and there's colors and a backdrop behind me. I can see where I'm at. I can tell you the venue I'm at. I can see the people and the audience. I can see the seats filled. I can hear the music that is playing in the background, and I can see the people around me who I love, who support me, and they're out there with me. So, shout out to them. Those are my kids, and I can see them out there in the zone with me. So, there is an author called Mike Dooley, and he has a whole series of information about kind of manifesting your dreams. There's a lot of conversation about law of attraction and manifesting and that sort of good stuff. I'm not going to really go there today, but what I want to do is kind of share with you one of the critical things that he brings forward in this conversation is that when you're designing this daydream, when you're seeing the colors and hearing the noises and all of those kind of things, that when you visualize it, you take a few seconds to really kind of tap in as best you can to what it would feel like to have that happening. What is it going to feel like when I'm on that stage? And then, in his way of looking at things and his design and system is that if you can imagine the things you want to come and you can attach the feelings to them, then it actually brings those things to you in an accelerated way. It'll come so much faster than what you're expecting it to. So I had the opportunity to take a workshop with him down in Kentucky a couple of years ago. I drove down there to kind of get a little bit more of exposure to what he was doing, and really good stuff. And he's like, it doesn't have to be like a big, huge commitment, but if you can spend, 2 to 3 minutes a day, that's it, right? Kind of doing this, taking on this project. Don't do it for a while. We'll see what happens, right? Step number two of how do we reinvent ourselves is would be setting goals. Right? So there are lots of different goal setting systems. I'm going to talk to you about a couple of them. One is called the SMART system, SMART, and each letter is uh, is a reminder of what the step is for it. So he says when you set goals, that the S has to be that the goals have to be specific, meaning they can't be, you don't want anything super, super vague, uh, like I want to lose weight or I want to be happy. Well, okay, what does that mean? You know, um, M meaning that they have to be measurable. So if you say, well, I want to lose weight, then it's, what is it, 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 100 pounds. Um, Achievable has to be something that you're able to do. So I think I mentioned a few shows back that I don't ever have daydreams about being a brain surgeon because I'm not going to be a brain surgeon. Not what I was cut out to do in this world. The thought about being a brain surgeon is probably not an achievable goal for me. Right? I don't know that I have the cognitive ability to do it, meaning might not be the smart enough bear to achieve that goal. And any number of other things. But the R in the SMART system is the goal needs to be relevant. It has to it, has to resonate with your life. It has to be something that makes sense to do. Um, the T is that it's time bound. So in the system, you'd want to have a date that you want to achieve it by. So that's the SMART system, and I do know people who use this one. I use pieces of it, to be honest, as my goal setting tasks. Other systems that are out there, there is a gentleman named Grant Cardone, whose system is called 10 times goals. And what he says is that when you have a goal and you set a goal, that what you think you can accomplish, you actually want to multiply that by 10. And then that becomes the goal that you're shooting for. Wow. And this is like when I had been introduced to this goal setting system, that it's almost like, imagine that you are beating your chest with your fists. You're just out there. Very aggressive, very aggressive goal setting system. And but it's limited. If you think about that, you can't set goals and always multiply them by 10. You certainly wouldn't do that with weight loss, or you'd waste away to nothing, right? But it could be a really good system if you're working with money. Because let's say, for instance, that you would like to make another $10,000 a year in income. That with Mr. Cardone's system, uh, why not ramp that up and go for $100,000 a year? Right? You're going to be working at it anyway. Just set the mark a little differently. Another system created by Dave Ramsey, and it's called the Total Money Makeover. I've met a lot of people who subscribe to this. I think he's a faith-based person, so a lot of people are introduced to his system through that venue, and his system is kind of an example of that. Slow and steady wins the race is what he's shooting for. So his conversation goes along the lines of, if you want to maybe get $10,000 into savings, that what you accomplish, or you want to pay off debt, is that every week or every day or every month, you kind of whittle it down slowly but surely, and just eventually will achieve the goal. Um, that's a nice one. A lot of people have had a lot of success with that. And I think that I've not experienced his goal setting system. I've never, read his things or seen him speak on it, but he seems to, people seem to really resonate with him. They really feel really good about what he's doing and how he's presenting it. So kudos to Dave, because it's good stuff to put out there. Another goal setting system comes from Brian Tracy. Brian Tracy has written a lot of books and a lot of different success through selling, kind of things. I think is where his focus has been for a long time. I've read a lot of his things. He wrote a book early on. The first one that I'd ever read was called Eat That Frog. And what he talks about is every day we've all got something that we don't want to do, right? And it's a frog. And so he says, well, kind of what you want to do is every morning when you get up, you do the worst thing first. Eat that frog. Just get that thing out of the way, because otherwise you're spending all day dreading it, because it's just kind of waiting up there. Hello to Vivian. Thanks for the reach out on the show today. Glad you're tuned in. Um, and so he wrote a book. His goal setting book is called Goals: How to Get Everything You Want Faster Than You Ever Thought Possible. Uh, I found this when I was researching for the show, and I'll be honest with you, I want to get this book. I think it sounds pretty cool. Um, but what in his system, he has lots of charts, lots of graphs, and it actually has 21 different levels and steps that you need to go through to achieve the goals. Um, and to some people that may be, like it just feel real cumbersome. 21 steps to hit a goal. Wow, that's a bunch, right? But he really breaks it down, and puts it together in a way that some people like to see information like that, and it could be just right up your alley, right? Uh, so kind of what I want to talk about when I talk about the goal setting systems, and these are not exclusive of what's out there for you. There's lots of different systems, lots of different tools you can use if you don't want to, put a whole system into place. But if something strikes your fancy, piques your interest, read up on it, give it a go, try it. Don't worry about being perfect about it. Don't worry about it actually hitting the mark and getting the job done. It may very well do that, but don't put a lot of pressure on yourself to set up a system, and it's a make or break kind of conversation for yourself. What what I know is that if you choose something and you just get going at it, you just put a little bit of effort into it every day, no matter how much effort or how little effort you do, that anything you do, you're steps ahead of the game, because yesterday you were doing nothing, right? Um, I also want to talk about the fact that certain goal setting systems may work for you now, and then maybe you need a new one. Maybe you need a new approach. So stay open, stay pliable, malleable. Kind of pick something else down the road. See if a different system will fit for you years later that didn't fit for you now. So another third step to how do we reinvent ourselves is to create a plan. Um, and you want to be real open to changes and how that plan develops. Um, Again, a couple weeks ago when I did a life coach show, I talked about that. What's really neat about, uh, creating, getting a goal to accomplish, achieving a vision, is that we're kind of like GPSs, right? So when I say, I want to be on this stage speaking to this many people, and the colors are here, and my kids are out there in the audience supporting me, um, that's like the destination on a GPS in your car or on your phone. And so you step out and you start heading down the route of how you think you're supposed to get to that end game, and don't worry if you get veered off the path for a minute or you start heading a different direction, because what happens is, like a GPS, life will just reroute you. So if you start turning left and you're worried that you needed to stay heading straight north, but you start heading a little bit west, the GPS will say, rerouting, rerouting, turn right here, turn left there, go 2 more miles. And it'll still keep getting you toward the destination. So I talk to a lot of people about just not getting totally um, entrenched in how they think that that's supposed to come together. Um, what's critical about this is that you always, and I mean, I'm underlining that, always keep learning and growing. Um, you know, what what happens is that as we age and mature, as we evolve, that the way that we take in information changes for us. Things that you you might have heard in your 20s don't sound the same way in your 50s anymore. And likewise, what I found is that I've bought books in the past and cracked them open, read a couple chapters, couldn't get any further, laid them down, and I find that 5 or 10 years later, I can open that book and it just streams in. It all makes sense, and I couldn't get it 10 years ago. It just didn't fit. So if you if you just kind of stay fluid with it, and if you're just really committed to always growing and learning and being the best that you can be, um, keep picking up things, keep tuning into different authors, audiobooks, all kinds of stuff, and just see what fits, see what works for you. Next step in how do you reinvent yourself is step number 4, and it's letting go of how it's supposed to happen. Um, what I know is that, as human beings, the way that we're wired is that if we see something in front of us that we want to achieve, something we want to do, that we we automatically start trying to figure out how we're supposed to accomplish that. That's what we do. We're wired that way. No big deal. But what we want to be real cautious of is that you don't, like the GPS that I was mentioning, you don't get stuck on it has to come through these steps. It has to look this way. Uh, what I know is that if you're going to lay out a system, right? You're going to say, I want to get to this end game. And in order for me to get there, the way that I know the world is I have to do this and this and this and this and this. And you lay out your steps that if you get like too zoned in on that, on those steps, and that you miss opportunities. So here I am on a radio show, right? Thank you to Paul Schreiner and to Greg Kovach for giving me the opportunity to do this. But this is something I backed into. I wasn't looking for this. It was not in my list of how is Terry going to get to what her end game is. It's something that all of a sudden I found myself doing and being and having and learning. So just always have your steps, but just stay open to getting rerouted. A road may be shut down, there may be construction, and there may be a reroute. So um, keep open to that so that you don't miss opportunities, because those are going to show up for you if you're open to them, not necessarily looking, but open to them. So I want to thank everybody who's tuning in. You are listening to WVLP at 103.1 FM, also live streaming at WVLP.org. Today's show is Life Coach 101, Reinventing Yourself. And for those of you just tuning in, spent the first half hour of the show kind of talking to us a little bit about how people that we know have reinvented themselves, some celebrities. Ronald Reagan, Shirley Temple, Sonny Bono, that started out in the celebrity circle, and we knew them in certain ways, and they ended up going into political positions in the world, and that's an example of reinventing yourself. I also want to talk to you today about the steps that we're doing, is kind of where we are in the moment. How do you reinvent yourself? And kind of what I mentioned is that there are seven critical steps to doing that. And step number 5 is actually getting into action. And that's, this is, believe it or not, one of the hardest steps to this is people, a lot of people have a lot of dreams and visions and things that they that they can see and they want to achieve, and they feel that it's possible. But then it kind of stops there. Some people do some things like they have positive affirmations or good quotes that they keep around themselves, or that sort of thing. That's good stuff. But unless you actually do something, none of that is going to bring it to you. I guarantee you that. So the trick is to doing something, like anything, every single day. Do one small thing, and then the next day do that small thing and add one more small thing to it. The following day, add one more small thing. If you keep doing that, what ends up happening is the momentum will take hold, and it will start pulling you along. Those actions will start pulling you forward. Um, I think this is where a lot of people get stopped. They they become like deer in the headlights. Is right at this step of doing. So that kind of dovetails into something we're going to hit a little bit later, and that's kind of what you believe. What's going on between your ears. This is a good place to start looking at what your belief systems are, and we're going to go there in a bit. But um, so step number 6 of 7 of how do you reinvent yourself is to get an accountability system put into place. I have a coaching client that has struggled, with getting into action and really struggled with accountability. So there's something going on for that client about having to answer to somebody, having somebody asking every day, well, what did you do? What did you do? Well, what was your today about? Um, so what I started with this client is that every day, part of the assignment that she had was to create, or I call it her homework, was to send an email to me at the end of every day. And what I wanted to know is what she did about the certain tasks that were on the table. So every day I wanted an email from her, and I didn't get that. I won't kid you. The first week I probably got 2 out of the 7 days, um, and I was expecting 6 to 7 out of 7 days. One day off for good, one day off just for rest and relaxation, but the rest of them I expected an email, didn't get it. I moved it from there to we started exploring what the difficulties were with her with accountability. She definitely wanted to be accountable, she definitely wants to achieve the goals that she has set out there, but so we're looking at that, and so I scaled it down a little bit, and I said, okay, now as opposed to an email, let's just do a text. So every evening when you finish your day, I'd like a text from you, and I'd like to just know the answers to the homework. What you're working on. What was the progress today? Um, Again, not getting 6 or 7 days out of 7, getting 2 to 3 now. So she's a little bit ramped up, but still not enough. Definitely want to get some more. And we are at a place now that all I ask for is an emoji. Just send me a thumbs up, send me a picture of that, or a smile, or a frown, or whatever that just sums up your day. I mean, I've made it as absolutely simple as I possibly can with her. And we are now at 4 and 5 days out of 7. So she's moving up on the accountability. So that's one way to set up an accountability system. And um, it's always nice if you can find a friend who is up to the same thing. Um, Maybe they're trying to achieve the same goal you are, and you can share that personally with them, or maybe they've got their own goal. So you just help each other become accountable about the things that each of you are working on. Um, Accountability, think about like weight loss programs, Weight Watchers, definite accountability, right? Counting points, looking at what you're taking in, other weight loss systems as well, have accountability as part of the cornerstone. It's crucial. It's critical. Um, there are also apps that you can put on your phone for accountability. I did a little bit of research on those, again, preparing for the show, and it looks like there's some pretty good ones out there. So if you don't have a friend, and you're looking for it, definitely download an app and give that a go. I think there are some free ones, or real low cost ones. But last on accountability, if you want definite accountability, hire a coach. Um, there are actually just specific accountability coaches. Could you imagine that? That's all they do is coach you on accountability. That may be a real inexpensive way to get this going. What I know about accountability is that if it's like a muscle that you have and everybody has, and if you start exercising the muscle, it will start to strengthen on its own, and it'll start kind of catching. It'll start happening for you. That whatever you start when you start to learn to be more accountable, that that'll get stronger, that'll get easier as the days go on, and as you get better at it, it'll start kicking in, if that makes sense. It'll, like a muscle that starts firing when it needs to, versus you think, oh, I've got to do that. So it does get easier. No worries with that. And also too, don't put in a negative about accountability. You know, a lot of times people will beat themselves up if they don't hit the mark, or they don't, connect, or if they don't do what they were supposed to do that day, or what they set out to do that day. They're very hard on themselves. Well, guess what? That's just going to take that whole goal and that whole vision and move that, another 3 miles away from you. So it's just going to make it even harder to get where it is that you want to go. So don't beat yourself up. We're just human. Just learn from it. Just go, oh, look at that. Look at that. I'm doing that again. I don't want to do that anymore, because I want to start doing this. Um, so, step number 7 on the 7 steps to reinventing yourself. Um, and this is something that you want to do throughout the entire process. And what it involves is start looking at what you believe. You know, you believe it or not, no, no pun there. Um, what you believe drives your world. It creates your life. It starts directing your future in a way that you may or may not want it to go. Um, you want to look at what you believe about yourself, what you believe about people around you, what you believe around the world. What do you believe about that? And what you believe about what's possible for yourself, for others, for society. Start identifying it, because what needs to happen, and this is crucial, is that your beliefs could be working against you. And yeah, I think probably about 85 to 90% of what we believe we're not even aware of. It's just, I always say it's like, if your life is a bus, you got somebody driving the bus and you don't even know who's doing it, right? And you keep thinking you want the bus to go down a certain direction, and it's going the wrong way, because it's those beliefs that are driving them. And the things about, especially the things that we believe about ourselves and the way that we operate in the world and what's possible to us, are beliefs that we actually create before about the age of 8 or 9. As they say, we actually get those in. So imagine that you've got an 8-year-old driving your bus. Yeah, that's who's driving your life. But you can change that. You can look at that. You can figure out what those things are, and you can redefine them and work at, you know, maybe changing the belief, but at least catching it and replacing it for the moment. If that's the best that you can do with it. Um, this is what most people miss. You know, when they're trying to reinvent themselves, when they're trying to achieve a goal, this is the one step that, if anything is gonna not make it happen or not make it stick, this is what's going to be. What's going to be a series of belief systems. Um, so it's critical, and uh, if you don't if you don't explore that, you don't examine that, it's almost like you're going to do all this work, and it's going to end up reversing, because you don't change what created it in the first place. So, kind of what I want to share, and it's something I bring when I talk to groups of people, is that, you know when we look at things, and we look at ourselves and what we think about the world, it's really not about what's happened to you, right? In your life, it's even not about what you've told yourself about what's happened to you. You know, it all comes down to what you've told yourself about yourself because of what's happened to you. So think on that for a moment. That's a pretty profound comment. Going to take a second and give the station identification. You are listening and watching WVLP at 103.1 FM, also live streaming at WVLP.org. I'm also streaming live on Facebook Live if you get a chance to tune in. It's my Terry Healy Transformational Speaker page, and we're going live via this wonderful piece of equipment I bought called a Mevo. So hopefully it's improving the sound quality and what you're able to get and experience. So tune in if you want a visual of things. Um, we are talking today about reinventing yourself, my series Life Coach 101. And this, what I try to bring up, when I create these shows, are what are the common things that I deal with? What are the things that people keep hitting, the walls that they keep having to climb over? What's the common theme? And that seems to be kind of what you get to hear and experience. You get the benefit of a life coach for an hour of time in your day. So we were talking about reinventing yourself and the 7 critical steps that I've identified to making that happen. And we are on step 7 of 7, which is taking a look at what you believe. And this is absolutely by far the most important thing that people miss, that they don't understand that they need to put into place. And if you don't look at this, the odds are very, very slim that if you are able even to reinvent yourself, that the changes are going to stick. They're gonna it's gonna fade away. So you kind of like think about people that have lost a lot of weight, in the past, and fantastic, right? Kudos to them. And what happens is that they end up putting it back on, and they end up adding additional weight to that, right? Uh, so what I know in those conversations, more often than not, if it's not a medical condition that's creating that, it's that their beliefs aren't. Their beliefs haven't changed. We've got Edie tuning in. Hi, Edie. Good to see you this morning. Thanks for catching the show. So something is there about what they believe about themselves or their world, and whatever that is, they've put on excess weight that their body doesn't need. It's just not good for them. So they lose it, and if they don't look at what the beliefs were that drove that created that, those beliefs are still going. They're still running the show. So that's why people end up, going back and regaining the weight and then some. Um, Another example is they've looked at the statistics, and 98% of all lottery winners, and we're talking like mega million people, right? Big money, end up going bankrupt within 2 years of getting the winnings. Isn't that amazing? I mean, because they followed this for how many years have we had these kind of lottery systems? Well, what's that about? It's about what they believe. It's about what they believe they deserve, maybe. Um, how they just don't have the belief systems in place of, how to be financially prosperous, how to manage money, if they even deserve to have money. They may be walking around thinking, I don't deserve it. I don't deserve to be able to pay my bills, And if that's what their belief system is, guess what? That's not going to change if, tons of money hit their lap. The belief's still there. They're just going to get rid of the money because it's not in keeping with what they truly believe. Um, if if you also, like, here's another way, if you keep choosing the same type of partners, and I'm talking about like a romantic type conversation. One of the people that I've coached in the past is a 45-year-old bachelor, wonderful guy, great guy, and successful, has a good life, has a home, um, and seems to be doing well, but he yet always keeps attracting a certain type of woman, and not the type of woman that he wants to marry or bring home to mom, but one that is not those things. So he had actually come to me for coaching because he couldn't figure out what it was about him that he kept attracting and then choosing those kind of women. So the work of our coaching together was kind of looking at all that. And I think I brought him up in a prior show because he's just a great working example of it. But so kind of what we've been identifying is, what does he believe about himself, and what does he believe about how the world works, that those are the women that he sees. Because there, of course, are wonderful women out there, right? And they're not finding their way to his doorstep. It's the other ones. It's the kind of the ones that are more drama, I guess, or a little bit scarier, that end up sharing his life. And so kind of, some of the things that we've looked at is, he he has had a lot of professional success and personal success in being a really, really good problem solver, right? This guy works in, he works with different restaurant systems. So he walks into kitchens in the back of a restaurant where it's mayhem, right? It's just craziness. Chefs are screaming, food's flying, and it's a lot of stress, high stress situations. And he's able to go in and survey the entire operation and see exactly what's going wrong, what's falling down, and find the solution. He's able to go bam, 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 this, that, this, and put everything into place, and everything settles down, and everything continues to function, and then and on and on. So, and then he gets a feather in the cap, right? This guy does really well with that. So his employers go, well, you're just really awesome, and they give him bonuses and lots of kudos and promotions and things. So part of this man's belief about himself is that he that's his strength, that that's one of his highest strengths. It definitely is. But what he didn't realize is that it was spilling over into his romantic life. So what was happening, and it's a multifaceted thing, by the by. This isn't just the one answer for this guy, but this is the big one I'm sharing with you. So here he is, really good at handling drama and chaos, and all of a sudden he keeps attracting women that are drama and chaos, right? Because part of what drives him is, I'm good at figuring this out. I'm good at finding the solutions. So he attracts these women, and he does his very best to help them find some calm in the storm. And he wants them to have great lives. He wants to have lives with them. And so he does what he does best. But unfortunately, he's getting the gals that are having that are a bit of a hot mess, I guess is a nice way to say that. But or maybe that's not a nice way to say it, but does it make sense? Think about that. What he believes, and then how that's showing up in his world. So for that gentleman, that's probably about, no, I love percentages in case you haven't figured it, about 75 to 78% of what's driving that man is that belief. And then there are other ones that we've identified, and it's all starting to come together. He's looking at things a whole lot differently, and I wish him well, and would love to celebrate him finding a great romantic partner. Um, so just kind of know that your reality, the world, the world you live in, um, is that it, it's all a reflection of what you believe. It's all it just is it's a mirror, and you think it's this, that, and the other. You think it's stuff outside of you. You think it's your partner or your job or your neighbor or any of that stuff. It's not. It's almost like you think it's the world, but it's really what you're thinking that creates your world. Make sense? It starts inside of you. So start looking at that. Um, Looking at your belief systems is exactly where you want to be when you first start out with reinventing yourself. Is identifying that so that you've got real strong footing and real clarity, as to what's going on. It's also a really good place to go and start exploring when you find yourself stuck, right? So you're working through one of these 7 steps, and all of a sudden you're log jammed and you're not sure what's going on. Guess what? Look at your belief system. So, kind of the exercise that you want to be doing is get out a piece of paper and just make a list. You could journal if you want, and ask yourself, how do I feel about? And then you want to fill in the blank. You can also ask yourself, where did that come from? That belief come from? So, kind of give you an example. I've got a coaching client that very very capable woman in so many ways, and she can't. And she's in a sales capacity. Can't get over making about $45,000 a year. Can't get over that hump. And every time she gets close to that, she starts sabotaging herself. Now, in the field that she's in, she should actually be making $100,000 a year in the sales that she does. And here she is at 35,000. It's got, or sorry, 45,000. It's got nothing to do with who she is and her abilities. She's bright. She's concerned. She's capable. She's got all the things she has to have. All the tools in her toolbox are all there. It's all there. And here she goes sabotaging. So when we started looking at this, I asked her to do this exercise, and we actually did it together. Of what are her beliefs? What does she think about money? And to kind of give you an example, some of the things that she identified was she has a belief about money that says that you need to spend it as soon as you get it. Okay? She's got one that says she has to work hard to get money. That she needs higher education to make lots of money, which we know that's not true. None of these are true, right? It's her truth. It's her belief. She also believes that she can't make a lot of money because she's a woman. Wow. And that's one that we kind of went, where did that come from? Now, it came from her father. That was his belief system, and he passed that on to his children. So in her world, if she was a man, she'd be making 100,000, doing exactly what she's doing with all the gifts she has to bring to the table. She also has a belief that she doesn't, because she doesn't understand how stocks and bonds work, she can't ever make good money because she has to know those things. Well, that's not true. That's not true. That's her truth. It's her belief. A lot of people have a lot of money and don't understand how those things work. Um, as far as, on a personal level or professional level, how she operates her business is she thinks that she can't get more money because she doesn't do enough marketing. Again, not a truth. She doesn't self-promote. There may be some truth to that. She may need to do some more self-promoting. Um, she also, on a personal level, not just about money per se, but on a personal level, thinks that she does not deserve to make $100,000 a year. That's a big one, right? And when we also looked at this, kind of the work that I did with her was asking her, what would happen in her world if she made that kind of money? And very quickly she uncovered that she would be very concerned with what people would think about her. What would her family say? Yeah, and that was just kind of an ugly place for her to go. Uh, so if when we looked at this, and I really invite you to look at this kind of stuff. These beliefs that we have, that we carry around, are what stop us in our tracks, right? We either don't get going, or we only get so far, and then we get log jammed, and it just doesn't happen for us. We get stuck. So when you start this process, definitely start exploring your beliefs. It's it was always to me, it's fun, right? Personal growth and transformation of yourself in your life to me is fun. So I say this is a lot of fun, and it may not be for everybody, but do it with a friend. Sit down, kick it around. If two people come together and they each want to see some improvement in their lives, this is great stuff to work together. Start looking at what your beliefs are. It's sometimes when you talk it out or hash it out with another person is when you actually uncover what the beliefs are. Because a lot of times you're sitting alone within your own head, right? It's just you talking to you. You may not get all these things. So play the game with a friend and start looking at it. Because when you see them, you can go, oh, there's that again. There's that belief system again. I'm going to change that up for the moment. I'm going to change that today. Replace it with something else that works. Some things heavier than others. So if you need some good support, you might need a good counselor, maybe a therapist. Reach out, find that. If that's what you need, go get it. Patch it on, put it in there, take care of business, and get moving forward in your life again. As always, the mantra is I ask you all to look for the good. Look for the good within yourself and the people around you, and look for the good in the world. And you'll be surprised what starts showing up for you. You've been listening to WVLP 103.1 FM, also live streaming at WVLP.org. Today's show was brought to you by Ryan Eberhardt from Diamond Residential Mortgage. Ryan is amazing. Call him if you need some mortgage financing. I have a lot of background in the industry, and I know he's extraordinary. His office is on Route 30, 350 Northland Drive in Valparaiso. Direct phone line 219-707-8429. Thank you, Ryan, for supporting community radio, and you've been listening to Terry Healy, bringing you some extraordinary transformation. Take care, everybody.